Hi, I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president, and on the road again. Well, not exactly on the road, but I'll be on the road in a minute. But I know y'all have seen my Princess Cassie in the back of my commentary, so this may be my last on-the-road commentary, depending on whether I win this nomination or not. And so I thought I'd introduce you to my princess here. This is my Princess Cassie. She's just an absolutely wonderful person. I cannot begin to tell you how much joy she has brought to me. She's a COVID dog. Got her when she was a little tiny puppy. She was shaking when I put her in the car, and she came and sat on my lap immediately and stopped shaking. And I said, man, this dog's great. And she just had her 4th birthday. Cassie, look at the camera. Yeah, look, these are the people looking at you. Yeah, she's a good dog. She had her 4th birthday on Saturday, and I got her presents. I got her 2 Frisbees. She loves playing Frisbee. And I got her a duck because she loves chasing ducks. She loves to swim. She chases ducks out in the water. She thinks she's going to catch them. And then I also bought her a rabbit because she loves chasing rabbits too. And but her favorite toy, I'm going to get back in the car and back on the road. Her favorite toy is Big Lamb Chop. You see, we got a little lamb chop and a big lamb chop, but she loves Big Lamb Chop. And before she goes to sleep every night, she hugs Big Lamb Chop. And she loves hugging Big Lamb Chop before she goes to sleep. And she gets her feelings hurt if I'm walking her and somebody doesn't want to pet her. She just like, she can't understand that. And when somebody does want to pet her, I always have to warn them that, you know, if you pet my dog, she's going to want a belly rub. Because as soon as she starts getting petted, she rolls over. And I keep telling her this is not really polite, but she doesn't listen to me, but she wants that belly rub. And she loves running. We went out hiking yesterday and she was chasing 2 deer, but she thinks she's going to catch them. But I've trained her and myself, and so she comes back when I recall her. So I feel good about even if she chases a deer. So that's my Princess Cassie. I love traveling, whether I've got a big container. I know it's not the safest thing in the world to have her in the back like this, but she loves looking out the window. I mean, she wants me to roll down the window, and I mean, she's just as happy as she can be when she can see the world. But when I travel on a long distance trip, I have a big fortified container I put her in, and she doesn't like it, but it's safer in case I get into a bad accident. So anyway, that's my princess. I wanted to introduce you to her. Yesterday, I thought I was doing my last on-the-road commentary, but then I listened to the interview that Dave Smith, you know, famous LP podcaster, comedian, did of Michael Rectenwald, who one of the contenders for the presidential nomination, and his vice presidential candidate, Clint Russell. And so I'm listening to this thing, and you know, now Dave's a comedian. I've never been to any of his shows, but I'm sure he's very good. I've heard he's very good, but he's got to be good because he had me in stitches during this interview with Rectenwald and Russell. I mean, I'm like guffawing at certain stages of this thing, but it's like he's not intending for this to be a comedy act, but he's very good at it because I'm like guffawing at various places in this interview. Let me give you one example of this. That they're all excited. They're all just gaga over Donald Trump. Donald Trump's coming to our convention. Wow, an ex-president. Wow, this brings prestige to the Libertarian Party, you know. And boy, this is going to attract people. Well, of course, except for the people that hate Donald Trump. I don't think they're going to be really impressed with this pro-Trump Libertarian Party. And it's hard for me to understand whether this really is a Libertarian Party convention or a Republican convention, because now they're celebrating that Vivek Ramaswamy, another Republican, is going to be speaking there, and Thomas Massey, Republican congressman. And I have no doubts that Dave Smith is trying to get Blake Masters to be a speaker too. That was the U.S. Senate candidate, Republican, that he was supporting over the Libertarian Party candidate, because Jacob, he's a Libertarian, you know. And just like they feel about Trump, they feel like he's a Libertarian, Jacob. and Dave was saying, well, I do disagree with Donald Trump on certain things, but you know, but he's heroic. I mean, they're all gaga over the fact that this guy is going to be there, and I have no doubts that they would love to have Greg Abbott, governor of Texas here, and Ron DeSantis, governor of Florida. mean, this is like a Republican Libertarian convention now, with a slight leaning toward the Republican part, because that's what they're really celebrating, is these Republicans at our convention, which fortifies what I've been saying for the last 3 years, that this takeover in Reno has moved our party in a right-wing direction. Okay, that's what they've done, and they're reinforcing this image of the Libertarian Party as a right-wing organization. And the only reason they're having Kennedy is because of his right-wing views. That Kennedy's a gun-grabbing liberal Democrat, and praises communist Cuba, praises communist China. That's not why they're inviting it. These are right-wingers. They don't like communism. They're inviting him because he's right-wing when it comes to immigration. He's on their same page, and he's right-wing on the anti-vaccine, which they're ferocious about being anti-vaccine. That's why they're inviting Kennedy. But it's a convention with a right-wing taint to it. So in the middle of this interview, I mean, this had me in stitches. I was guffawing. Clint Russell says, the greatest thing about having Donald Trump at this convention, they're all gaga over it, is that we get to interact with one of our probable rulers, or our probable ruler. Because they're hoping that Donald Trump beats Joe Biden. And for them, it's like a two-man race. They've already said no Libertarian Party presidential candidate can win the race, and so they've defaulted to Trump. And that's what, Angela McArdle, the party chairman, said Trump's a better candidate than Biden. And so it's become a pro-Trump campaign. And so here is Russell saying, this is our chance to interact and influence our probable ruler. That was his term, ruler. And they're saying, did he really say this? Oh my gosh. I mean, this is the mind of a serf. A serf, oh my gosh, we get to express our grievances to one of our rulers, our probable ruler. Saying, oh my gosh. I mean, this is serfdom 101. We're serfs on the plantation, and we're celebrating the fact that our ruler, our probable ruler, wants to hear from us. That's pathetic. So in any event, I'm going along listening to this interview, and all of a sudden my name pops up. And Dave instigates this. And he brings up the Joe McCarthy episode. And this is at the Georgia Libertarian Party debate, where Clint Russell was the moderator. But he was more than a moderator. I mean, he became a participant in the debate on the right-wing side. An active participant. Where he's coming after me because of my libertarian views, the brand of principled libertarianism on which the party was founded, that they loathe, absolutely loathe these right-wingers. And so, in this debate, Russell is ferociously anti-vaccine. Okay, and he's asking each of the presidential candidates whether they took the vaccine or not, and then he's asking them to repent. And he's shaming them. He's saying, shame, 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 if you took the vaccine. Because it's his position that every person who took the vaccine is a dumb dolt of the state. And he makes that position openly, that you're a dumb dolt of the state. So there's 270 million Americans that took the vaccine. And notice the political ramifications of this. You've got a guy that wants to be the vice presidential candidate for the party, along with Rectenwald, where they're both going to be calling people who took the vaccine dumb dolts of the state. I can guarantee you that not one single person of those 270 million Americans is going to vote for these guys, because nobody likes being called a dumb dolt of the state, okay, for doing something that they believed was right. But you see, that's their right-wing version of libertarianism. There's an old saying, nothing worse can befall a good cause than to have it ineptly defended. And these guys are inept defenders of libertarianism. They're very good at defending right-wingism, very good. And what they think is libertarianism, which is their right-wing perspective, Republican light. But libertarianism is not anti-vaccine. It's not pro-vaccine. It's pro-freedom. It's neither pro-vaccine or anti-vaccine. It's saying people should be free to decide this for themselves. So there's no need to say libertarians believe that if you took the vaccine, you're a dumb dolt of the state. You don't need to make that judgment. Just say, hey, we think you ought to be free to make these decisions on your own. So they have automatically alienated 270 million people, most of whom can vote. This is just dumb politics, and it's an inept defense of libertarianism. So what Russell's doing in this debate is he's operating like Joseph McCarthy with respect to the vaccine. Now, who was Joe McCarthy? Well, McCarthy was this right-winger, and McCarthy is loved by the right wing. I mean, he is a hero of the right wing. This is during the Cold War, during the 1950s, where, you know, the Reds are coming to get us, the communists are coming to get us, and the right wing had established a whole anti-communist crusade where they were trying to ferret out every communist in America and destroy them. You know, like in Hollywood, they were trying to get rid of all the communists and cost them their jobs, prevent them from supporting their families by not letting them get hired. They were pressuring people not to hire them. People like Dalton Trumbo, who were having a terribly difficult time because they couldn't get hired to do what they did and write scripts and things like this. And they were trying to just starve them and impoverish them. It was a vicious campaign, and McCarthy is at the center of this. He's a congressman, and he's summoning people by subpoena to appear before his committee. I forget what it's called, the anti-subversive something committee, and anti-American subversive, I don't forget the name of it, but it was to shame the communists. And so he had this famous question: are you now, or have you ever been a member of the Communist Party? And if somebody said yes, shame, shame, shame. And so some people were taking the Fifth Amendment to avoid this horrific treatment, and then that meant they were guilty, you see, if they were taking the Fifth Amendment. So this goes on until finally a guy named Joe Walsh, I think it's Welsh, puts a stop to it. He says, have you no decency, sir? No sense of decency? And immediately, by standing up to this bully, he put him down. And that was the end of McCarthy. I mean, McCarthy ends up, you know, dying in shame himself. And his campaign came to, his anti-communist crusade came to an end because Joe Welsh was willing to put a stop to it. So here is in this debate, what this guy Russell is doing, he's going to each candidate, presidential candidate, and he's saying, did you take the vaccine? And if you did, are you willing to repent for it? And if you did it, shame, shame, shame. And because you're a dumb dolt of the state. And so he's trying to make this point as a debate moderator. Now, Dave is trying to get him off the hook in this interview. And he's saying, well, you didn't really ask whether they were taking the vaccine, did you? And Russell says, well, I not exactly, but I was trying to get him to repent. It's ridiculous. To get him to repent means you have to ask him if they were taking the vaccine. And so he starts this inquisition, just like Joe McCarthy. I mean, when I'm sitting there, I'm saying, oh my gosh, this is like Joe McCarthy, because it's like an inquisition. That he starts to my right on the debate stage, where he's asking each candidate, did you take the vaccine? And the guy I felt most sorry for was Lars Manstein. Because when they get to Lars is a great guy. You just can't help but like Lars. And Lars starts to justify himself. And I'm just watching this, fascinating, you know, because shame, shame. And he starts to explain why he took the vaccine, that his wife is, you know, has some kind of illness or some kind of compromised medical condition or something, and that he felt he should do this for the best interest of his wife. And I'm looking at this and saying, oh my gosh, he's justifying himself to the inquisitors here. It was just amazing. And so then they go down the line, they get to Mike Tremont. And Mike Tremont, another great guy. You know, I disagree with a lot of his positions, just like I do with Lars, but Mike Tremont was heroic, just heroic, because they didn't talk about this, you know, in this interview, Dave Smith interview with these two guys. Didn't mention Mike Tremont, not surprisingly, because Tremont says, none of your business. Now, there's only one question that would be asked that would justify that kind of answer, and it's logical. Did you take the vaccine? Okay, and none of your business. So that's like proof that that's what he was asking. So Dave Smith's wrong. He was asking. Did you take the vaccine? And so Termott knows how to treat a bully. I mean, this guy, Clint Russell's just a bully. And I learned as a kid, with a bully, you got to stand up to it, because they'll back off. And as soon as Termott put the bully in his place, he shut down, just like Joe McCarthy did. He shut down, because he still hadn't gotten to Chase, who was to my left. He still hadn't gotten to me. And he was going to go down the line and shame every one of us if we took the vaccine. And Termott put him in his place. He shut him down. He didn't get to Chase, didn't get to me. He got shut down. And good for Termott. It was heroic. I mean, it was absolutely heroic. And then, so that's the Joe McCarthy episode that Dave Smith's bringing up. And now, they also brought up the fact of my position on separating healthcare and the state. When I brought this up in the debate, Clint Russell was just antagonistic. What do you mean separating healthcare and the state? Well, last night, Dave Smith brings it up. Oh, Jacob wants to, separate. He didn't use separate healthcare and state. He used something like medical freedom. And Rectenwald pipes him, yeah, Jacob, just medical freedom. I never used that term, medical freedom. I always talked about separating healthcare and the state. Now, what does separating healthcare and the state mean? It means getting government removed from healthcare entirely at both the federal and the state level. Okay, it's like the First Amendment. The First Amendment is no government involvement in religion. Separate church and state. And with the 14th Amendment, that applies to the states as well. That's what I want to do with healthcare. You see, that way you get government entirely removed from the power to provide or regulate healthcare, constitutionally speaking, at both the federal and the state level. Now you don't have to worry about lockdowns anymore and mandates and so forth. These guys oppose this. They were mocking and ridiculing, not only during the debate, this position of separating healthcare and the state, because that's not their position. That's why they were mocking and ridiculing during this Dave Smith interview, because they want to keep government involved in healthcare. They just want their right-wingers to be in charge of the Centers for Disease Control. They want their right-wingers to be in charge of the healthcare industry, healthcare powers at the state level. Okay, all the healthcare agencies that impose the lockdowns and enforce the lockdowns and the mandates, the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates, they want to keep those agencies in existence, but put right-wingers in charge of them. The anti-vaccine fanatics, they want to put those in charge. So you'll have like a reign of terror in the opposite direction. That's not freedom. Freedom is not getting better people in public office. It's removing the power of government so that you don't need to worry about who's in public office anymore, because there are no public offices that manage or direct or regulate or provide health care. You see, and this is what they were mocking and ridiculing, this notion of separating healthcare and the state, which is the only real freedom position there is. All right, so then another aspect of this thing in Georgia that they didn't mention was the barefoot clown, who was one of their allies. He's one of their partners, one of their comrades in this debate. He's an extreme right-winger, and the barefoot clown gets up there and says, we need to punish all these people that prescribed or advised to take the vaccine. We need to send them to Guantanamo Bay, he says. Now, think about this, because Dave is saying, well, we need a presidential campaign that improves the libertarian movement marginally. There's a little bit of improvement among the general public. How does the barefoot clown improve the image that people have of the Libertarian Party? They already have an image of the party as a right wing, and I've been saying for the last 3 years, this has been a disaster. And now they consider it an advantage when they're inviting all these right-wingers to our political convention. They're saying, isn't this wonderful that it's reinforcing the right-wing image of the Libertarian Party? I hold that it's exact opposite. When the mainstream press extols the Libertarian Party as a right-wing political party, it's been a disaster. And I'm not the only one. I mean, there's in financial straits right now. Okay, that's why they have this debate fundraising scheme to try to get money. The 30% drop in membership from what I hear in the last 3 years. And what they don't want to confront, obviously, because they're right-wingers, is that it's the right-wing direction that the party has taken. that has caused this drop in interest in the Libertarian Party. They can't face that. They say, "Oh no, Jacob, the problem is we haven't gotten publicity. But if we get Donald Trump to come and speak at our convention, we'll get publicity, Jacob, and the right-wingers will finally come and vote for us." Ridiculous. Every single right-winger is going to vote for Donald Trump. They're not going to vote for the right-wing Libertarian Party. They'll be wasting their vote. You see it? They don't get that. They don't get it. They just say, "Oh no, Jacob," Rectenwald says, "I can get on Joe Rogan. I can get on Joe Rogan. And I can bring in membership, Jacob. I can bring in Really? Dave Smith's been on Joe Rogan, what, 2, 3, 4, 5 times in the last 3 years? Where's all the big membership?" You see? They're living in fantasy land because they don't understand that the problem is the right-wing image that the party has, the right-wing direction. And so when they bring in Trump and Vivek Ramaswamy and Blake Masters or Greg Abbott or Thomas Massey, all they're doing is throwing fuel on the fire, making it worse. They can't see that because they're right-wingers. Okay? They believe in this Republican-like message that they're trying to bring into the party. So here's this barefoot clown that's up there saying, "Send these guys to Guantanamo Bay," even if there's no crime that they've been committed. You see, it's a basic element of our criminal justice system that there has to be a crime on the books before you can punish somebody. The Chinese system, no, if they abuse power, just send them to the gulag. But that's not our system. But the right-wing clown says, send them to Guantanamo Bay, whether there's a crime or not. And of course, at Guantanamo Bay, there's no trials. There's no trial by jury, that's for sure. Military tribunals, but that's when they decide to have them at their kangaroo courts. There's torture there. And so that's what the right-wing clown is saying. Send everybody that advised people to take the vaccine to be tortured and maybe executed at a place that's run by the Pentagon and the CIA. Well, what kind of message does that send to the American people? Remember, this debate is being videotaped. It's put online. The entire American public can watch it and see the barefoot clown and see that he's one of our right-wing representatives that's over there defending the Pentagon and the CIA's torture center at Guantanamo Bay and saying that all those doctors and government officials that advise the vaccine should be sent to this place to be tortured, indefinitely detained or whatever. How in the world does this improve the Libertarian Party? In this interview with Dave Smith and Rectenwald and Russell, never once did they condemn the right-wing clown for what he did. And certainly not in the debate there in Georgia did Russell ever condemn his ally up there, the extreme right-winger, the right-wing clown, for what he was saying. This is improving the image of the Libertarian Party. This is the message they want to take to the voters of America. Oh my gosh. And then let me see what else took place. Oh yeah, they last night they took Lars Matt. They went on the attack against Lars Matstead, and they said Lars doesn't want to donate to the party, and then this is Dave Smith. He won't donate to the party. Lars is a multimillionaire, and I disagree with Lars's message, like I disagree with the message of all my opponents. But Lars is one of the nicest guys I've ever met. I mean, you just can't help but find Lars Matstead to be a really nice guy, and he's very successful. I mean, the guy's a multimillionaire, but he did it on his own. He built his own businesses and stuff. Very admirable. And he doesn't want to donate to the party because he doesn't like the direction the party's taken either. And obviously, neither do I, which is why I won't support the party. And this is why, when they created this crooked and corrupt debate scheme at the party where they said only the fundraisers for the party are going to be, the top fundraisers are going to be permitted to share their perspectives in the debate at the National Convention, they knew that I wasn't supporting the party. And they knew that Lars wasn't supporting the party too. Now, of course, I'm not anywhere near Lars's position, far from it. But they had to be laughing when they came up with this debate scheme because they're saying Jacob's going to have to start donating to the party now. He's going to have to get his donors if he wants to share his perspectives. Now, here I've been to, 30 conventions, state conventions, participated in I don't know how many debates and 20 or so, and then there's presentations. I'm the second largest fundraiser in the campaign for my campaign. But no. You've got this debate is going to be limited to people who generate donations or give donations to the party. So they're laughing because they're saying, ha ha, Jacob's going to have to do what he doesn't want to do. He's going to have to support us, like it or not, in our right-wing direction. They don't know me. No, I say I'm not participating in your debate scheme. If that means I don't get to share my views, well, that's just the way it is. You know, you're in control. You make the rules, and there's nothing I can do to affect that. But you're not going to manipulate me into doing something that I don't, in good conscience, feel I can do. And I'm certainly not going to ask donors, my supporters, to do something that I'm not willing to do. And Lars feels the same way. I'm sure of it, that he doesn't like this direction this party's taken. But he has stayed in the debate, but I have no doubts they're laughing because they know Lars doesn't want to donate to the party, and that's what Dave Smith pointed out. He was criticizing him for it, but he's going to be in this. They're thinking he's going to have to donate, and I think Lars is going to make a nice donation to get into this debate. But they've manipulated him into doing something that he didn't want to do. That's just nasty business. That's just nasty business. When you got to manipulate people into donating to your party, you know that there's something inherently wrong. There's something fundamentally wrong with a party that needs to do something like that. And then Rectenwald says, yeah, and he's not committing to donate his fortune to the presidential candidate. Dave says Lars doesn't have any chance to win this nomination. He's not a real serious contender. And Rectenwald says, yeah, and he should be donating his money to me because I'm going to win the nomination. Well, what if Lars doesn't support Rectenwald's pro-Trump campaign? And that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a pro-Trump campaign. And why should Lars donate his money to that? I'm not going to donate my money to a pro-Trump campaign. My position is your presidential candidate in the party should be running against these people, against the oppressors, against the people that have destroyed our freedom. But that's not the kind of campaign that he and Clint Russell want to run. They want to run a pro-Trump campaign. They've already said we can't win the nomination. And that means the second best, and that's one of our rulers, elect one of our rulers, as Clint Russell says, Donald Trump. And that's why, Angela McArdle, National Party chairman, is saying clearly Trump's a better prospect for president than Biden. So it's going to be a pro-Trump campaign, and it's just highly unfair to be criticizing Lars Mapstead because he doesn't want to support this kind of campaign, a right-wing campaign, if Rectenwald and Russell are made the nominees. Now, one of the funniest things, it cracked me up, was when Dave Smith says, well, Michael, you were part of an event with Robert Kennedy Jr. there in California, weren't you? And the reason I'm laughing is, event? I mean, event? Dave knows that it wasn't an event. It was a crooked and corrupt debate scheme that was over there put on by one of the party acolytes. They love this guy, a guy named Adrian Malagon. And Malagon was party chairman there, or is party chairman in California. He organized the convention there, and he organized this crooked and corrupt debate scheme. That's as crooked and corrupt as the debate scheme at National, which he may have had a part in because he was in charge of running the National Convention up to recently. For some reason, he's no longer there, or he's no longer participating in the debate scheme. They're telling me that he's trying to maneuver his way onto the Credentials Committee, so that apparently with the aim of trying to challenge the credentials of anybody that's not going to be supporting their preferred candidate of the Mises Caucus, candidates of the Mises Caucus. But Malagon establishes this crooked and corrupt debate scheme. Now remember, these are the guys that saying, we should be in the debates, Jacob, we should be in the debates, referring to the debates between Biden and Trump. We should be in the debates, we shouldn't be excluded from the debates. But that's exactly what they did in California, and Dave knows this. This is not just an event. This is a debate scheme where Malagon says, I'm going to permit only 2 presidential candidates for the Libertarian Party to be in the convention debate. Only 2 out of the 9. And it's all arbitrary, It's who gets their money in first that I'm gonna let in. And of course, Rectenwald is one of them, and Mike Tremont was the other one. But they put them in a debate with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's not even a Libertarian Party candidate for president. He's one of our enemies, one of our opponents in the race. But he's permitted to debate without paying any money. But the rest of us are excluded from presenting our views to the biggest party in the Libertarian Party. We're not permitted to share our views, except he says, after the convention's over, I'll throw a debate together for you guys to do this. And that's how Rectenwald got into this debate up there. And Dave knows this. It wasn't just an event. It was part of this crooked and corrupt debate fundraising scheme that Malagon organized. That's really comparable to the one that they've put together over here in Washington, D.C. So, in any event, let me see what else. They go on the attack against Lars Mapstead. Oh yeah, they say, Dave Smith says, well, I want to commend you, Michael, that for you're the only candidate that agreed to turn over your data after the convention's over to the National Party, and he was essentially trying to shame the rest of the candidates for not agreeing to do that. Well, except for one thing. His statement is false. Completely false. In fact, my recollection is that every candidate, 100% of us, said, yes, we'll turn over our data. I don't recall one candidate saying no. It's possible. My recollection maybe one or two. But certainly most of us, at a very minimum, Smith's wrong. Because my answer was, of course, I'll turn over the data. Why not? I mean, it's all reported to the FEC. What's the difference? Why would anybody say no? I mean, well, there's no secret about it. And, if we're going to be criticizing the mainstream media for, what Donald Trump calls the fake news and false statements, Dave, you got to get your facts right on things like this. I mean, that's a pretty easy thing to verify before you go out and cast aspersions against the candidates. And like I say, I think everybody did, but certainly most people said they'd turn over their data. I know I did. So your statement that Rectenwald was the only one that would do that was absolutely false. All right, so what else did they discuss that was kind of funny? Well, let's talk about what they didn't discuss. I mean, this is really funny. Let me go back to another one. Rectenwald wanted to make the big point that he's an anarchist. Okay, that he says, I'm the only one that said hate the state. I hate the state. The other ones, they just hemmed and hawed. Well, my position is very simple. I'm an advocate of limited government, and I favor limited government. I believe that government should be limited to legitimate functions. So my answer was, I hate the illegitimate functions of the state. For example, I recently had an incident in my house where my alarm went off and I didn't catch it, and the security company called the sheriff's department. They were there in 3 minutes, just 3 minutes, and this felt good. I mean, I thought, wow, if there really was a burglar, I want that deputy sheriff there. I was happy with it. And so if you eliminate the illegitimate functions of government, the drug war and other illegitimate functions, government becomes your friend. Now they're limited to doing things to go after the murderers and the rapists and the burglars trying to get into your home in the middle of the night. This is a good thing. But Rectenwald is saying, well, no. We got to abolish all government. Now, let me tell you something about politics. This debate over limited government and anarchy is a fun debate inside the movement. It's a fun debate inside the party. But I will guarantee you take the message of anarchy out to the American people, and you will guarantee the lowest vote total in the history of this party, close to 0%, which is where we are right now anyway, close to 0%. And because there's no possibility that the American people are going to vote for anarchy. When they hear your candidate wants anarchy, they're out the door. There is no possibility that that's a vote getter. I'm just talking about straight politics, and so. Making that case it's a loser position. Now, especially when you're saying, I'm going to burn the Constitution, I'm going to abolish the Congress, I'm going to abolish the Supreme Court, but he's going to keep the presidency, you see, because he favors that strongman presidency. So he's not a total anarchist here, because he favors immigration controls. He favors the immigration police state along the border patrol, ICE, the highway checkpoints, the whole police state apparatus, the Berlin Wall. How do we know this? Because he wrote his article in the right-wing rag known as Chronicles Magazine. You can Google it. What next for the right? Where he's counseling a Republican president, either DeSantis or Trump, who he idolizes both of them. And he says, you guys need to finish the wall if you become president, which of course means eminent domain stealing of people's property. And so he wants to take this message to the American people. I'm an anarchist, except we need a Berlin Wall and we need eminent domain stealing of people's property. And we need this giant, massive police state. And he also wants to seal the border, which means the military, which means keeping the Pentagon in existence. Now, the Pentagon is the centerpiece of the national security establishment. So even if you abolish the CIA, who cares? The Pentagon simply absorbs their powers, the powers of assassination. You abolish the NSA, you got the Pentagon absorbing the powers of surveillance. See, but he needs the Pentagon to militarize the border. And that's his position, both him and Russell, to militarize the border, to seal the border, just like Biden and Trump want to do. This is the anarchist. So he's got the worst of all worlds, because he loses the votes of the American people that are never going to go with anarchy, because he's going to say, I hate the state, and I want to abolish the whole state. But he's going to also lose the vote of the anarchists, because he's not an anarchist. He wants the strong man as president, like Donald Trump, one of our rulers, as Clint Russell said. Another analogy is Augusto Pinochet. Pinochet is a darling of the right wing. Right-wingers love Pinochet because he ignored the Congress, he ignored the judiciary, he ruled by decree. He called them decree laws, and he favors a strong military, and he wanted to consolidate power. He did consolidate power to stay in office much longer than the 4-year term. You see, and now that's not all though. Rectenwald also favors state sovereignty. In other words, sovereign state governments. That is not anarchy. Okay, anarchists say abolish all government. That's not Rectenwald's position. Rectenwald's position is, okay, partial anarchy at the federal level, but tell people you're an anarchist, but big, powerful, totalitarian, omnipotent powers at the state level. He's a big states' rights guy. So he calls for this power of nullification, that the state should be able to nullify whatever the feds do. Well, for example, the governor of New Mexico issued a gun control decree not too long ago, where she didn't even go to the legislature. She just issued the decree on gun control. Said that it was an emergency power. And a gun rights advocate or a group goes to federal court under the 14th Amendment and gets this thing enjoined immediately, thrown out by a federal judge. Rectenwald and Russell would oppose this. They would say, no, this is horrible. That governor should be able to nullify what that federal judge did. Now, I love what the federal judge did. He took the 14th Amendment and he applied the Second Amendment to the states. Okay, and I love this, but they don't. They want to burn the Constitution. They don't believe in the 14th Amendment or the First Amendment. They don't believe in the Constitution at all. They want to burn it. They're They say they're anarchists, but not at the state level. They want omnipotent government at the state level, so that this governor's gun control decree would stand. And that's what they want. They don't want that federal judge interfering with it. They want her to be able to nullify what the federal judge had done. So this is not going to go anywhere in a presidential campaign, and they know that. I mean, they as you'll see at the end of this video, that they've given up on votes. Totally given up. Now let's talk about some of the things they didn't talk about last night, and you'll see why they wouldn't talk about them. Social Security. Okay, now Rectenwald's written these books about I'm anti-socialist. I'm anti-socialist. I started out as a communist, but boy, I'm anti-socialist today. Except for the fact that at the South Carolina debate, he says, we need an off-ramp. We need an off-ramp for Social Security. He wants what he calls an off-ramp, 25-year continuation, one generation of Social Security. Because he says my position of immediately repealing socialism would mean a lack of care and compassion. He thinks care and compassion can come through the IRS, the initiation of force, which is ridiculous. Care and compassion only comes from the voluntary heart of the individual. And he says, people be dying in the streets if Jacobs plan to repeal socialism immediately were to take place, which is ridiculous. America lived without socialism for over 125 years, and there was the greatest outburst of voluntary charity that mankind has ever seen. Children and grandchildren honoring parents and grandparents on a voluntary basis. Isn't that just a radical notion? So he wants to continue Social Security for at least one generation, which is the crown jewel of American socialism, even while saying, I'm anti-socialist, I'm anti-socialist. You know, I mean, ridiculous. And so then let me see, what else did they not discuss? The public school system. Okay, now public schooling, it'd be very difficult to find a better example of socialism than public government schooling. I mean, I call it Army Light. This is at the state level. There really isn't a bigger socialist program than public government schooling. You got regimentation, you've got destruction of a love of learning. This is where people get indoctrinated. I mean, there's really only one freedom solution to government schooling, and that's separate school and state. Get government out of education. Now, you know, the right-wing would say, Jacob, it's too difficult. You know, it's too deeply ingrained. We got to work within the system. And Rectenwald, from the very beginning of the campaign, said, I'm going to use my presidential campaign to get libertarians elected to school boards. He calls it, my campaign will be localism, decentralization. So he's going to use the presidential campaign not to go after Trump, because Trump's his idol, not to go after the opponents, Biden and Trump. He's going to be trying to get libertarians. He's going to be going to talk to libertarian groups in order to get libertarians elected to the school boards to take over the public school system so they can run this socialist institution better than Democrats and Republicans. You know, like teaching Austrian economics in the public schools. Okay, well, this is the anarchist, remember. This is unbelievable. We should be making the case for freedom. Freedom is the separation of school and state. It's not taking over the public school system. It's not school vouchers, which is just another socialist educational reform vehicle. And let's not forget that the core principle of our philosophy is the non-aggression principle. I mean, it says that you don't initiate force. School vouchers initiate force. They take money from one group of people through taxation and give it to another group of people. And they put private schools under government control. And taking over the government school system with the idea we're going to teach Austrian economics and free enterprise, that is not freedom. That is not freedom at all. But that's what he wants to do. Okay. Now, what is the other thing that they didn't talk about? Immigration. This is their signature issue, immigration. I mean, Russell is a fanatic. He's more fanatical than Trump. Finish the wall, just like Rectenwald wants to do. Stop the invasion. They're invading, Jacob. They're destroying our culture, all these. But notice something important. They didn't bring it up yesterday. In fact, Rectenwald, in the last 5 or 6 debates, stopped bringing it up. Now, he was ferocious in the beginning of this campaign about immigration controls. We gotta enforce the system down there and all this. He's ferocious. Not in the last 5 or 6 debates. Why? Because I smashed his arguments. And he knows it. I smashed his arguments into the point where he stopped promoting and defending his immigration control system. He stayed silent in the last 5 or 6 debates. That's the power of argumentation and debate. Now, people have criticized me in this party for being too aggressive. Jacob, you shouldn't be aggressive in debates. These are our fellow libertarians. You should be up there holding hands and singing Kumbaya. They don't understand what debates are. Now, what they're referring to is like a forum or a town hall. And there were some of those at state conventions. And I always complied with those. They said, we don't want to debate. We don't want arguments. We just want to know where you stand on certain issues. Okay, I complied with that. But when you call for a debate, I'm coming to debate. This is a battle now. It's a battle of ideas, battle of positions. And you bring your best arguments. You don't bring a knife to a gunfight, okay? And this is a fight over positions. And so every time there was a debate, Rectenwald knows I smashed him on open borders. And that's my position, open borders. I mean, I'm against the socialist immigration control system, the death, suffering, the police state that he endorses. But at the very end, he has remained quiet. And so has Russell. Russell, in the beginning of this campaign, was ferocious, But I know he heard my arguments, and he's gone into quiet mode, passive mode on the immigration control issue. Now, what's going on here is that they're not proud of their position. They're really ashamed of their position. If you believe in a position, you are proud about it. You advocate it. You bring it up. I mean, that's what I do with open borders. I'm proud of open borders. I've held for more than 30 years. This is the only solution to the immigration morass that immigration socialism has brought. That death and suffering in a police state, kidnappings, rapes, detention centers, this is not libertarianism. And they know they cannot defend their position effectively because I smashed their position. That doesn't mean that they've renounced their position. Okay? What's going to happen if they're made the nominee, it's going to surface. They've just gone into silent mode. They're trying to fly under the radar screen, hoping that Libertarian Party members who are moving in the right direction on immigration because they're realizing that this party is a party of life and liberty and pursuit of happiness, and it's a glorious philosophy that is not a philosophy of death. It is not a philosophy of suffering in the police state and kidnappings and rapes and detention centers, highway checkpoints, Berlin walls, concertina wire. But as soon as they win this nomination, if they do, it's going to surface immediately because now they're going to be the nominees. Hey, we're the nominees. Nothing y'all can do about it now. And that's where they're going to resurface again. Oh, the invaders are coming. They're destroying our culture. They're destroying America. Donald Trump's right. We're on the same page as Donald Trump. Donald Trump will save America with his Berlin Wall. I'm going to go down and help him complete the Berlin Wall with eminent domain stealing of people's property. That's what would happen. That they've gone into passive mode, silent mode on their immigration control system. But it'll surface immediately if they win this party's nomination. And they'll be supporting Trump. I mean, Trump's the real enchilada when it comes to immigration control. There's not one advocate of immigration controls that's going to vote for Michael Rectenwald and Kurt Russell. I don't care how ferocious they are. They're all going to vote for Trump. And why not? When the two LP people are going to be saying Trump's right. Trump's right. In fact, one of the funniest things that I heard last night was Dave Smith saying, and again, he's not trying to be funny, but he's causing me to laugh. He says, Donald Trump, I disagree with Donald Trump wanting to build a new FBI building for the FBI. And he says, we got a prospect to get some voters out of there, some of Trump voters. I was laughing. Trump voters are going to vote for the LP guy simply because Trump, their hero, their idol, is building a new building for the FBI. You see, it's this la-la land. They're targeting Republicans for votes. They still think that they're going to take Trumpsters away from Trump. It's ridiculous. Every Trumpster's going to vote for Donald Trump. I don't care if he's building a building to exalt the CIA or whatever. And another funny thing was, I think it was Clint Russell that said, we could talk, it could have been Rectenwald, we could talk Trump, one of our rulers, into pardoning Ross Ulbricht. Wouldn't that be wonderful? Like, we can beseech our ruler, please, please, please pardon Ross Ulbricht. And they apparently don't realize that Trump was there for 4 years where he could have pardoned Ross Ulbricht. He had a chance to do that along with Julian Assange and Edward Snowden, and he refused to do it because he was controlled by the national security state. But they've got this faith. Oh, he's changed, Jacob. He's changed. And they said last night, look how we've influenced him because he's using our rhetoric. He's against the deep state. And let me see. He's against the deep state, and I forget the other phrase they used. But what they forget about was that, oh, you drain the swamp. Look, he's adopting our rhetoric. Look at the influence we're having on our probable ruler. This guy used this in the 2016 race. This is why he got libertarians to support him back then too. There were libertarians that voted for him, including Rectenwald. Rectenwald voted for Trump in 2016 because this is one of his idols, and he was again counseling Republicans and so forth before he jumped into the Libertarian Party to make this race as a right-wing libertarian. But Trump immediately surrounds himself with generals as soon as he takes office. And John Bolton. In fact, I'm surprised they don't have John Bolton speaking at this convention. Think of the crowd that he could generate, or any other big Republican bring them on, you know. It's already a Republican Libertarian convention. Why not bring more? So Donald Trump, they put their faith in him. Oh, he's changed, Jacob. He's changed. He's going to really drain the swamp this time. That's friggin' ridiculous. He kept the troops in Guantanamo Bay. He kept, in Afghanistan, he kept Guantanamo Bay going. He kept the torture regime going. You know, but they put their faith in him. Oh, he's changing, and we can change him. He will listen to us. Our probable ruler will listen to us. It's ludicrous. All right, so the very end of this interview, Dave Smith says, what do you hope to achieve with the presidential race? And this was very revealing. They both said, we can bring awareness of libertarianism to the American people, which is their right-wing version of libertarianism. But notice something important. Nothing about votes. Okay, they're seeing this as an educational foundation. Rectenwald clearly thinks, oh, this is like the Claremont Institute. This is like the Hillsdale College. I can bring awareness, erudite, presentation of libertarianism. This is a political party. It's not a college. It's not a think tank. It's not an educational foundation. We are measured by how many votes we get. But they've already said they've scratched off votes. Votes are not important to them. They're going to make this an educational campaign. This convention is like a conference. Oh, we have big names. We have big Republicans coming to our convention. Isn't this wonderful? Well, what about all the millions of people that hate Donald Trump? What are they going to think about this? We don't worry about that, Jacob. We're not worried about votes. See, we're trying to get publicity, Jacob. Publicity. Let me tell you my perspective. We're a political party. We need to get votes in this presidential campaign. They have resigned themselves to 0 to 1%, which is what I've been saying from the very beginning. You go back to the early debates in this campaign last year, and every attendee will tell you that I was saying that we're going to get 0 to 1%. That's it. We already know the results in November, because if voter sentiment hasn't changed or gotten worse, it's actually gotten worse because of this right-wing direction that the Libertarian Party is a right-wing organization. Nothing's going to change, and that's finally settling in on people in the party. Yeah, you're right. Jacob's right. He's been right from the beginning. We're going to get 0 to 1% unless we change directions, and that was always the qualifier in every debate. I would say, if we change directions in a completely dramatic way, we can achieve a breakout of 10 to 15%. No question in my mind. And I cite I ran this kind of campaign, a guerrilla campaign. You got to run a low-cost guerrilla campaign. You can't, criticize Lars Mapstead for not putting in, $10 million into a right-wing presidential campaign. You got to run a low-cost guerrilla campaign, and that's what I did in Virginia 20 years ago for U.S. Senate. I was running against John Warner, one of the most popular governors in the history of the state, chairman of the Armed Services Committee, right after the 9/11 attacks. I was saying what Ron Paul would say several years later, that the 9/11 attacks were motivated by U.S. foreign policy. I wasn't going to get one Republican vote. Not the Ron Paul voters, and I didn't care. I wasn't targeting Republicans. I didn't care. I wasn't going to get one Republican vote. And so my critics, the right-wingers at that time, were laughing because they figured I was going to get 0.01. If I'm not targeting Republicans, that's their target audience, is Republicans. And I'm saying, the heck with them. So they're saying Jacob's going to get 0.01, 0.02. They were mocking, they were ridiculing me. The Democrats weren't running anybody, but I knew I wouldn't get any Democrat protest votes because, unlike Rectenwald, I'm calling for an immediate repeal of Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, public schooling. No Democrat was going to vote for me, even on a protest level. They all voted for the LaRouche in the race. Nonetheless, with a low-cost guerrilla campaign, I garnered 7% of the statewide vote. Okay, and I targeted Hispanic families. I went around in Hispanic newspapers and places where I knew Hispanic neighborhoods, and I said, spread the word. You got a cynic, it's going to open the borders. And they did. I have no doubts they spread the word. Their eyes were this big when they heard this. And then I targeted blacks for votes. This is a prime area for us because of the drug war, the most racially bigoted government programs and segregation. And blacks their support for Biden is diminishing. The press is reporting this. I keep saying this is the way we achieve a breakout. We go to them and we say we care about what's going on here. And I would say 80% of blacks in America know who Michelle Alexander is. and I'm willing to bet 5% of whites do. I want to change that around. I want 95% of blacks to know who Michelle Alexander is, and the Jim Crow nature of not only the drug war but occupational licensure. So I end up getting 7% of the statewide vote, and there's no doubt in my mind that constituency is out there. It's doubled or tripled in size. We got to run a different kind of campaign. Restore the founding principles of the party. The principles I'm enunciating, not the right-wing principles of Dave Smith, and which they call solid libertarianism. It's solid Republican light libertarianism. It's the new Coke. But I want classic Coke. I'm talking about the original, genuine principles of this party. Then you build your party on rock. Now you're on rock, not on sand, where you're inviting Donald Trump and Bobby Kennedy Jr. and the right wing, and you've got a solid rock foundation instead of sand. And then you run a campaign like this of principle. I mean, we call ourselves the party of principle, right? What's wrong with a campaign of principle? What's wrong with that? And so you target different groups of people. Last night Dave says, well, what would you do in your campaign? And they say, we're going to influence Donald Trump. I mean, this was the whole thing, that we've got an opportunity to influence Donald Trump. And they said, this is reality. They said, we can't be in an ivory tower. We got to get out and talk to real people like Donald Trump. We need to influence him. That's their idea of advancing libertarianism, is talking to their probable rulers. That's not me. I want to talk to the victims of this thing. They want to be talking to libertarians. And, to get libertarians elected to school board, you got to go have meetings with libertarians. In other words, the same group of people that we've been to at the state conventions. Just like another bus tour or meet and greet tour of talking to the same libertarians that we just got through talking to in the state conventions or in the national convention. Okay, no offense, but that's not what I want to do. I've already talked to libertarians. I want to talk to the victims. And that's why, man, I dream of running this kind of campaign where you go, I want to do a Borderlands tour where I have my video commentaries, okay? Where I'm on the road, starting in Brownsville, and going to the Berlin Wall down there and talking to Hispanic families and saying, tell me about how this has affected you. How has it affected your property here where the Berlin Wall is being done? And do live video interviews like this and post them on there, talking to real people, the real victims, and having my on-the-road commentary, starting in Brownsville and going up. This is my old stomping grounds. I grew up on the border. I know the border. I spent almost half my life there. And you start in Brownsville and you go up to McAllen and Roma, and you come up to Zapata and Laredo, Eagle Pass, Del Rio. The whole way, doing on-the-road commentaries and talking to real people, the victims, bringing to light that the only solution to this morass is open borders, and watching the right-wingers go ballistic. Watching the Rectenwalds and the Russells and the Trumps going ballistic, and the Greg Abbotts over this libertarian that wants to bring an end to the death, suffering, kidnappings, rapes, squalor, deportations, and the rest of this thing. And then I want to go to black radio stations. I don't care about Joe Rogan or Tucker Carlson. Those people are all Trump people. They're not going to vote for us. I want to go on black radio stations. I want to go to HBCUs, like Spelman and Morehouse, where I've spoken before as president of the Future of Freedom Foundation, Morgan State. I want to let them know that we're with you on this racially bigoted government program called it's almost as bad as segregation, the drug war. Every black in America knows that blacks get disproportionately higher jail sentences. Don't tell me there's not structural racism in American society, along with occupational licensure. That's the way to keep blacks out. That's the Jim Crow too. I want to talk to them and say, okay, what's your experience with this? What do you think of Michelle Alexander's work and mass incarceration and the new Jim Crow? And let them have a voice, the real people, the victims of this thing. There's an old saying, nobody cares about what you know. You can go out there and give all these erudite explanations of the Austrian theory of the business cycle or whatever. Nobody cares about what you know. They don't care if you're a professor until they know you care. And that's why I'm saying we need to let people know we care, and they will come with us. That's your 10 to 15% breakout right there. Okay? We don't have to settle for 0.01 or 0.02. They can't do this. Rectenwald and Russell can't do what I want to do. because they support this system down there on the border. They can't do a Borderlands tour except to meet with the Border Patrol and say, we support what you guys are doing. Who cares about that? Republicans do that. So who's going to cover a libertarian that's saying, we want to do with the same thing the Republicans want to do? Yawn, put me to sleep. And they have no interest in targeting blacks. None at all. Okay? It doesn't compute for them because they're not the Ron Paul voters. And then there's people who don't vote. That's 50% of the electorate. This is a gold mine of people for us. But they're not going to go register to vote for a reformer. As soon as they hear that you favor immigration controls and the police state down there, you're part of the problem as far as they're concerned. When you say favor the continuation of socialism in America for the next 25 years, and you want to try to improve the public government school system, you're part of the problem. They're not going to go out there and register and vote. With me, dismantle these programs, restore a limited government republic with a basic military force, bring all the troops home, don't send them to the border, open borders, dismantle all these troops, close all these military bases, the empire of military bases. Those people will come and vote for us. I have no doubts. That's a gold mine of votes. 50% of people. And then there's the people, the poor people at the bottom of the economic ladder. You're not going to have Rectenwald and Russell targeting poor people that are struggling from inflation. Those are the people we need to be talking to. What's it like to be paycheck to paycheck when grocery store prices are rising? That's what I want to do, these on-the-road commentaries. I want to talk to real people. That's what I did when I ran 3 years ago. I was running the North Carolina primary. I went to the bus station where the poorest people in Raleigh, North Carolina were coming in. I was asking their perspectives. 99% of them were black, and they had a better handle on what's going on in this country, especially in foreign policy, than the well-to-do whites in Raleigh. It was amazing. And then I went into the poor neighborhoods of Wilmington, black neighborhoods, a lot of public housing there. And I interacted with people, and they were just so ecstatic that here was a libertarian willing to come in and talk to them and tell them we want to get rid of mass incarceration and the drug war. This is the kind of campaign I want to run. Not one that tries to influence Donald Trump, but gets out there and talks to the victims of this welfare warfare state. So, I think I went on longer than expected. Sorry about that. But I just, our job in this party, I've said this over and over again, is to lead America to freedom. And the way we lead America to freedom is by moving in a completely different direction from the right-wing direction. We restore the founding principles. We run a campaign of pure libertarian principles. We change our target audience. And now we're looking at 10 to 15% of the national vote. And we fight to win. We always fight to win. We never, ever give up. I don't care what the odds are. Like I said yesterday when Han Solo said to C-3PO, don't tell me the odds. We fight to win regardless of what the odds are. I'm Jacob Hornberger, Libertarian candidate for president. My campaign website is jacobforliberty.com.